Rose.
What up, doe?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in,
Together we're Jalen Jacoby. What is it that we do?
we give the people what they
The people thought they would get a good game last night in Dallas. That's exactly what they got. Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, and the Vikings jumped out to an early lead. The Cowboys came back and made it a game. And at the end, it was a Dak interception. There was some curious play calling in this game. There was some curious things that the Cowboys did. This is the Hail Mary that would have won it for him, but it was intercepted. Jalen Rose, what do you see from the Vikings that you liked? You've been talking about them all year.
Absolutely, David Jacoby. And of course, the 49ers are undefeated. The Saints ended up losing yesterday. So did the Cowboys. A lot of great teams in the NFC that's still wide open. However, my sleeper is the Minnesota Vikings. Went to Dallas, get a big road win without their wide receiver Thielen on the field. It was all about their ability to stop the run. They stuffed Ezekiel Elliott the entire game. The play-action pass wasn't as effective, even though Dak had a great game. Amari Cooper was out there twinkle toes on the sideline a couple of times. But for me, this was all about the physicality of the Minnesota Vikings getting a win on the road.
It really was. You mentioned Dak Prescott's game. This is one of the best games I've ever seen him play as a Cowboy, but the importance of Ezekiel Elliott and that effectiveness. Like you said, the play-action pass won't work when they're not scared of the run, and they stopped him. They held him to 47 yards on 20 carries. It was a really, really impressive win for the Vikings. And Jalen, sometimes, I don't like to give you props. I don't like to give you compliments. But you've been on this since like week 3 that the Vikings are one of the best teams in the NFC. Do you think they can make a challenge and go deep in the playoffs?
You saw Randolph hitting his head on the goalpost a couple of times at tight end. Diggs is one of the best receivers in the game. And Dalvin Cook has more yards, you ready for this, than Christian McCaffrey on the season. He's catching out of the backfield, and he's a dual threat. So I've always liked a Mike Zimmer-led team because they embody toughness.
Absolutely, and we move on to another one of the best teams in the NFC, and that is the Green Bay Packers. They hosted the Cam Newton-less Panthers, and Kyle Allen looked pretty good. You saw Aaron Jones get in the end zone early a couple times, but Kyle Allen, once the snow started falling, he started darting that ball around, and he looked pretty good for the Panthers. Jalen Rose, me and you argue about this. You always say, there is no such thing as moral victories. But if you're the Panthers, when you are literally 1 inch away from winning the game, or at least getting it into a chance to get a 2-point conversion, don't you have to feel pretty good about it if you're the Panthers?
Absolutely, especially in those conditions in Green Bay. And that's why I like teams in the Midwest and on the East Coast to play outside, because it creates a distinct home field advantage. And that's what worked in Green Bay's favor. Aaron Jones was terrific again as a dual threat running back, having 3 touchdowns. Their defense will continue to be stout when it needed to be. Christian McCaffrey's going to get his rush yards against anybody. I figured that out. So for Aaron Rodgers, here's a guy that hasn't been spectacular this year. Trust me, I have him on my fantasy football team. He only had 9 points yesterday. He's only gone over 20 points twice this year. It's just 2 of those games were so very spectacular. You get Devontae Adams back. He went up over 100 yards. So this was a great win for the Packers on their home field.
And you say that Aaron Rodgers hasn't been spectacular this year, and you're absolutely right. But one of the reasons is just how good Aaron Jones is for this team to create a balanced attack. I can't think of a running back better than Aaron Jones that Aaron Rodgers has played with for like 5 years. And it's nice to have that as the Packers, and they have a much improved defense. And as you mentioned, they have that home field advantage when the snow is falling at Lambeau. They're just tough to beat. Shout out to Kyle Allen, though. Like, Kyle Allen was not on our radar 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago, but he played really, really well in that game, made some really tough throws. And we're talking about the best teams in the NFC. We bring up the Vikings and we bring up the Packers, and another team that we would have put in that conversation, the Saints. They lost, and they didn't just get beat. They lost bad to the Falcons. Jalen Rose, they lost to the Falcons, and not only that is they had, on offense, 3 field goals. Look at Drew Brees, just running around, getting tackled, getting pulled down. What did the Falcons do to stop the offense of the Saints?
This is flat out a character win for the Atlanta Falcons. Each week I've come on this program and talk about how lackluster they've been, to the point where I feel like it was going to cost Dan Quinn his job. And for those that don't pay intimately attention to the NFL, these two teams are rivals. And so for them to step up and play the way they did, they needed that game. But the thing that really stands out to me as we talk about Ezekiel Elliott, We talk about Dalvin Cook. We talk about Christian McCaffrey. Alvin Kamara's been quiet.
Yes.
I know he's dealt with some injuries, but usually he's a guy that's over 100 rushing, 75 yards receiving. They got to find a way to get him back kick-started.
So, Jalen, every Monday after Falcons loss, what do we bring up?
Dan Quinn's job security.
Do you think that a win like this, piled with a couple more wins, could keep his job in the offseason?
Absolutely. And their owner, Arthur Blank, already came out and said that he wasn't going to panic. He's going to evaluate the season in its totality. But this is a great win for the Falcons.
And I don't think anyone saw this win coming with the Falcons over the Saints. And there was another game that was very similar upset, and that was the Chiefs. The Chiefs went into Tennessee to play the Titans, and the Chiefs, they got Pat Mahomes back. He's got one-footed throws for touchdowns.
Yeah!
He looked like himself. He played great. But Ryan Tannehill? That Ryan Tannehill, who's not good enough to be the starting quarterback for the Dolphins, was out here darting the ball around the field and brought the Titans the win in Tennessee. There was this play too. Maybe he jumped the snap, maybe not. Doesn't matter now. The game is over. Jalen, what happened in Tennessee to the Chiefs?
We get enamored with the offense, and rightfully so as fans, and we respect the defense when it's physical, but it's three phases to a football game. The special teams lost this for the Chiefs, if you ask me.
Yep.
And so it wasn't just that final play. That field goal kicker botched another situation where he missed a field goal. But for the Kansas City Chiefs, it's their defense and its inability to stop the run. Derrick Henry was out there running like Earl Campbell for the throwback football fans. And while he doesn't catch a lot out of the backfield, he's shown me to be a guy that you can rely on in a lot of situations to get you yards when you needed them, and he got close to 200 yesterday.
Almost 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Patrick Mahomes, 446 yards, 3 touchdowns. Like, what more do you need from Mahomes to get a win? Now, keeping my eye on this game, when I saw that the Chiefs were ahead, it felt like the Chiefs kind of got a little too comfortable with the lead. Do you think that's fair to say?
I do think that's fair to say. But again, when your special teams trots out on the field, they have to execute. In a couple of situations, they did not do so, and I believe that's the reason KC ended up losing.
So KC didn't just lose this one. They've kind of stumbled a little bit in the past 4 or 5 weeks. Do you think there's a chance that we have the AFC playoffs without Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs?
No way. As long as Tyreek Hill's healthy, and I know he fell and re-injured his shoulder, I think with Mahomes playing the way he played, there will not be a playoffs in the AFC, and KC isn't involved.
Well, Russell Wilson will play tonight, but there's nothing that he can do that will put him in the lead of the MVP conversation because of what Lamar Jackson did in Cincinnati, just running all over the Bengals. I mean, that play right there alone was a highlight. He played so well. He didn't even have to play in the fourth quarter. What do you see from Lamar, and is he your MVP right now?
How much do I like the Ravens and John Harbaugh?
You love the Ravens.
I like the Ravens.
You love the Ravens. See, I jumped on the Lamar Jackson Ravens bandwagon like 3 weeks ago. You've been there from the beginning of the season.
Because it's about John Harbaugh and Ozzie Newsome. Like, they always have tough physical teams. You see Marcus Peters score another defensive touchdown. Their defense continues to make plays. And on offense, Lamar's just dazzling. He's really just dazzling. They find ways to put him in situations to be successful. I keep telling you, multiple tight ends, multiple backs. I know you saw that one formation that had 3 Heisman Trophy winners in the back.
The 3 Heisman formation. The 3 Heisman formation, once I saw that, if I was on defense, I would just call timeout. Go to the ref. Be like, we got to write something to the league or something, because this should not be fair. They're running the triple option. It's like Nebraska in 1986. I loved it so much. And the thing about Lamar Jackson, he's so dazzling on the field. Like, I would rather watch Lamar Jackson than Patrick Mahomes play football. And one thing I love about Lamar, his personality. Let's check in on the quirky Lamar Jackson after the game.
How often you practice that move?
What move? Oh, nah, I never practiced it. Actually, I did it, Saturday at the walkthrough.
So you did it in slow motion?
But when I did it in the walkthrough, I would've got hit, so I would've. It was Earl coming down.
I don't know if I love the Versace sweater or the sunglasses or the spin move more. I'm just it's Lamar Jackson season this season. Doesn't it just feel like that?
Can I just let people know that the Ravens are for the culture? And one of the terms because he sometimes probably doesn't fit the part. People forget that Lamar Jackson was the Heisman Trophy winner in college. And I like the fact that he said, I tried that spin move in practice and walkthrough, but Earl Thomas was coming down. That was shots to your Bengals, who we feel like don't get disrespected enough. Can David Jacoby take a second to disrespect the Bengals again?
It is time. When we talk about the worst football teams in the NFL, we talk about the Dolphins in win streak. We talk about that team in Washington who no one wants to discuss. We talk about tanking with all these other teams. The Bengals are so bad. So bad, and no one's noticed. They have not only have they not won a football game, they haven't come close to winning a football game. They're not even trying to win football games. They're so bad that AJ Green is like, you know what? I think I'm hurt. I think I'm hurt. I think I'm hurt. And listen, you know me. There's negativity in my heart. I believe that while we celebrate Lamar Jackson, we need to also disrespect the Bengals, because the people of Cincinnati deserve better than this. This fan base deserves better than this. Like, in the jungle, it's not even the jungle anymore. It's been raised like the Amazon. It's over. It's over. You know what? I'm getting upset about this. Dion Waiters. Dion. It's a short flight, Dion.
You're going to L.A., Dion.
Dion.
They got the best of the best, and it's legal.
Flight. We'll explain what we're talking about with Dion Waiters right after this.